Man accused of killing 2 Israeli embassy staffers in D.C. charged with murder of foreign officials. Pretty straightforward title. I honestly, from a like a purely like look at the facts of the case kind of way, it's pretty straightforward and there's not much to say. Guy said free Palestine as he was being escorted out. Is that contained in this video here?
2 Israeli embassy employees based in Washington, D.C. were shot and killed outside the Capitol Jewish Museum late Wednesday night. We are about a block away from where that shooting took place. As you can see, several police cars are blocking off the entire area, and numerous
I can't see
reporters with outlets from around the world are still here reporting live. We are very close, to give you a sense of where we're at, to an FBI field office several blocks away from the U.S. Capitol. Numerous law enforcement agencies from the area responded to the shooting, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, who said during a press conference that the suspect will be, quote,
the shooter was extremely mentally unwell. Their Twitter account was banned for spamming death threats at Will Stansel. At Will Stansel? No way. You're kidding me. That's funny. Oh my God. There's Will Stansel. One of the more aggressive lib posters on Twitter. Not to say I agree with everything that he says or anything. He is a poster though, capital P poster. You know, it's an honorable role. I had no idea. Well, I assumed this guy was mentally ill because I'll assume like at a default anyone who does like a targeted like killing of civilians is mentally ill. Usually that turns out to be the case. Jesus, that's wild. Here's a vid of the suspect saying free Palestine. Yeah, I saw this is one of the reasons people are calling it a false flag, because he was given like a tee up for this, but given a tee up. Oh, just because it looks like they let him talk. But I think that's just people baiting. You know, that's just people want to see conspiracy everywhere. The idea that some of the more mentally ill pro-Palestinian types would do some, we'll say Israel-style military action themselves and kill civilians. It's not surprising given how the discourse has panned out. We'll add this to, you know, to the bucket of civilians that have been killed as a consequence of Israel's ongoing genocide of the Palestinians. It's unfortunate. You shouldn't kill civilians. Pardon me. I know me and my hot takes. Even if they're working with the Israeli embassy, any arguments you see from the left, and there are people doing this, where they're like, well, maybe they shouldn't have been working with Israel. Come on, stop. They're civilians. But Israel kills civilians. Yes, they do in enormous quantities. I'm not engaging in an equation here. I'm just saying, like, don't pretend this gets anything for anyone, right? If anything, you know, you can all look forward to the revocation of the First Amendment sometime within the next few months. Because you know they're begging for it, right? Like they want so badly. They've been screeching about pro-Hamas terrorism on campus that doesn't exist for over a year now. Obviously, they're looking for, you know, any possible excuse. Do we have an example of that? Do we have an example of that insanity here?
The fact of the matter is the Palestinian cause is an evil one.
Yeah, and Congressman, there is a ceasefire deal on the table right now that the White House is hoping both Israel and Hamas will sign on to. Does this shooting change anything when it comes to the course of the war or the negotiations to end it?
Well, I think it speaks to the importance of the only end of the conflict is complete and total surrender by those who support Muslim terror. In World War II, we did not negotiate a surrender with the Nazis. We did not negotiate a surrender with the Japanese. We nuked the Japanese twice.
Wait, we did? That's how you end a war. Yes, we did. It's an unconditional surrender, but that is. Okay, sorry, just basic, like, lack of historical knowledge.
In order to get unconditional surrender, that needs to be the same here. There is something deeply, deeply wrong with this culture, and it needs to be defeated.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the total number of civilians who have been killed as a consequence of this conflict has gone up from like well in excess of 50,000, I'll tell you that much, to slightly more than well in excess of 50,000. Not trying to be callous about it. It's just like we all know what's coming from this, right? What's the consequence of this going to be? Is it going to be Israeli detente? Is it going to be a ceasefire? Is it going to be an international response to crack down on the genocide? Of course not. It's going to be political persecution of anti-genocide protesters here in the United States. Didn't you know they were set to be engaged, though? The two were killed? No, I didn't know that. That's sad. Were they? Or do you mean the shooter in one of the two that he killed? Because if that just opens up more questions. Yes? Yes to the first one? Okay. Yeah, that's sad. No to the first one? Yeah, I figured. Anyway, I just, yeah, don't buy into the Fed bullshit, obviously. Anyone who tries to turn this into like a, well, the left actually is anti-Semitic or what have you is obviously lying for political gain. And there's a decent chance the person making that argument is a Nazi, right? Given the state of the right at the moment. But also at the same time, anyone who's like, well, actually, this was what this was based, like, this is adventurism, you know, like that's, you know, adventurism, where it's not about like the outcome. You're not trying to fight for any kind of like political change. You're instead just trying to like feel like you're the most basest activist in the world. The ADL called out Hassan by name for this. Well, sure, the ADL is a tool of the military-industrial complex. They are an organization that cynically weaponizes accusations of anti-Semitism in order to further a Zionist agenda. They've done the extent of their bias is, I mean, it was always pretty clear, but like after October 7th, that shit got real wacky. Yeah, remember after Elon Musk's Nazi salute, they were like, okay, everyone, come on. It's just like, it's ridiculous. All right, so what are they saying?
But all of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hassan Piker, who regularly employs...
Don't think he's a gamer. I haven't seen any impressive video game performances from him, to be honest with you.
Awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state. Like, extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly.
Yeah, you get it. But like the ADL would like happily trade away American democracy and every constitutional protection that we enjoy for infinite, unending military support to Israel. The idea that they're a civil rights organization is laughable. Literally, look at anything they've said or been saying. There's not much really to go over there. It's like we know what their job is, right? Yeah, unending, infinite Gazan child death or whatever. No, this could very well mark a turning point, you know, an enormous crackdown. And yeah, I don't know. History is going to look at us very, very unfavorably. Right? When the historians are mounting up the enormous pile of dead from this conflict, and they see, you know, what our government and other Western governments wrought as what they were excused to do as a consequence of you know, this conflict. It's not going to look good for us. And by us, of course, I mean Americans. And us in terms of lefties will come out looking sterling. Because, like, just don't do the genocide. Just stop killing people would be great. I do think that genocide is bad. I know. This is, by the way, and this is not an exaggeration, a position for which people are literally getting deported. I want to be clear on that. It's not like that's not even a joke. Like that verbatim, that statement actually is getting people deported. But bravely, I insist. I don't think that genocide is good, in my opinion. Apparently, this guy had a manifesto. I mean, he's like crazy, right? No, he actually wasn't crazy. I think it's pretty crazy to kill civilians, in my opinion. I don't know. Dude, like, where are your faculties if you're reacting if in this political environment you're like, you know what's really going to tip the needle, like in the favor of like the Palestinian people, what's going to like improve their outlook, what's going to make the world a better place? What if I tee the Zionist state up for this one? That shit's crazy. Being earnestly invested in politics already means you're mentally ill. Yeah, that's true. Many were criticizing Bernie for condemning this guy. Yeah, like I said, adventurism. You know, a lot of a lot of people's like engagement with and interest in this issue at this point, they're so frustrated by the lack of action, the obvious lies and hypocrisy, the genocidal language and actions from Israel and America, that they're like, yeah, anything, whatever, stuff's happening, yeah, but they don't. It's not rooted in a desire to improve anything, right? Like again, that's adventurism. That's the term. It's wacky business, you know. I am seriously worried Hassan's going to be arrested in some kind of concocted connection with the shooter. Well, who's connected? I remember seeing on Twitter that the he was connected to some lefty org back in like 2017. Like he was briefly the PSL, briefly affiliated with the PSL like 8 years ago or something. So they're probably gonna pin that on them. PSL clapped them. Well, yeah, God, what are they gonna do? Take credit for it? What's the difference between the right calling their domestic terrorist mentally ill and us calling this guy mentally ill? There is no difference because we're both correct. People who do domestic terrorism, by and large, are mentally ill. He wrote an article for their newsletter and they just took it down. He was more than just temporarily associated. So he wrote an article for them 8 years ago. I just don't know what kind of ongoing association they had. I just know it was in 2017. But isn't blaming mental illness on this put mentally ill people in a negative light? I don't... You have to approach this from a reality-first perspective, I'm sorry to say. Apparently, the right on Twitter is trying to get Hassan banned again due to this attack. Yeah, eventually they're probably going to succeed, unfortunately. Let's look at Pam Bondi.
I looked the killer in the eyes and said, "Can I get you water?" He said, "Yes, that would be great." And I walked to get it to him, and I literally handed it off. Unbeknownst to me, moments ago, this man had execution-style killed 2 people. Not one shot. We're talking multiple gunshots. And I looked evil right in the eye, and there he was. And seconds after I handed him the water, he brandishes the keffiyeh, yells "Free Palestine," and then he's apprehended. And that's how it all unfolded.
Wow. That's the woman who organized last night's event.
She provided him water? Shit. She's going to get arrested for providing aid and support to terrorists.
Last hour, she was on the air telling us how she came face to face with the man who police say killed 2 Israeli embassy staffers in Washington, D.C. Only blocks away from the U.S. Capitol building, the suspected gunman seen shouting on camera, yelling "Free Palestine." The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, joins me now, and thank you for your time, and good morning to you, to the people in Washington, D.C., to the Jewish members of your community in Washington and throughout America.
How long until Free Palestine is hate speech? They are literally deporting people for saying it. They've been arguing that it's hate speech for quite a while now.
Condolences as they take in this news today. The suspect is described as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago. What have you learned about him?
Yeah, we can't give any more details right now about him other than he is in custody and authorities believe he acted alone. So we are doing everything we can to protect our entire community and especially our Jewish community right now. It was horrific. I was out at the scene last night with Jeanine Pirro, who is our U.S. attorney and will be prosecuting this case.
Okay, so a few minutes ago, we had a guest on who made a claim that he was a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Oh, no.
We haven't confirmed that. Can you?
Yeah, I can't confirm any of that now because, again, this is a pending investigation. What I can say is 2 beautiful young people were gunned down last night needlessly. You know, I saw his body being taken away from the scene. That was horrific. No parents should have to be called and told that their children were violently murdered leaving a religious event at the Jewish Museum. That should never happen in this world and not in our country. and this person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. As far as the facts in the law bill, we'll follow those. We'll follow those where they lead, but we will ensure everyone, America will be safe. We will do everything we can. This violence has to stop.
Yeah. The eyewitnesses we have spoken to have given us some descriptions that really defy law.
I feel like the biggest argument against it being a false flag is just the fact that they would have capitalized on it way more aggressively if it was. Not to be cynical, obviously, you know, we live in a post-Third Reich, currently Fourth Reich world, where we're familiar with the extent to which governments will lie and cause suffering to further their agenda. You know, it seems, I honestly, the only thing I'm interested in talking about with regard to this in the future, apart from sort of stamping down on the adventurous bullshit from lefties who haven't really thought out what they want to say, is just like, damn, we're going to lose our gosh darn First Amendment over this one, huh? 2 bodies and an amendment. It's a pretty bad shooting.